Hi everybody, it's Kimberly and welcome to my online art classes. I just want to show you in this lesson how to use different types of brushes. I have a few brushes here and I have some more. These are just some of my favorite brushes that I use often, with the exception of this one. I don't use this one very often at all. It just never really came in handy. I know how to use it, but I don't. So anyway, here are some of the brushes that I use to create some of my art. These are some of my favorite ones. As you can tell, they are very worn out. Some of them, I kind of let the paint on them a little bit, which is very, very important to clean your brushes. And after a while, they just tend to get stained. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but I do. So anyway, I'm going to show you how I use these different brushes. And I'll just go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out some paint. And today I'm going to be using a piece of canvas. So in the store they sell sheets of canvases. They actually have like an 8 by 11, like a notebook size kind of package of canvas, sheets of canvas. And so I just took one of those sheets and I cut it into 4, and this is what I got. Okay, but typically it's about 8 by 11, so about the size of a notebook paper. Anyway, I cut that, and so I'm going to be using canvas today. Typically, I have been working with paper and using a paper to do that, but I'm going to use canvas today. I thought I'd try something a little different. If you have paper, paper will work fine. And I'm going to be mixing some acrylic paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and tape down my canvas so that it doesn't move too much while I'm working on it, and showing you these different ways to use the canvas. And just so you know that this canvas is already been primed, and what that means is it's just a layer of paint has gone over the surface already, so it's ready to use. And just so you know, let me show you. You can kind of tell the difference. This side is primed, it's all white, and then on this side you can see it's a little bit grainier. It has a little bit of a brown tone to it. Okay, that's unprimed. You can use actually both sides. You just would have to prime this. I've actually painted on canvas unprimed because that's what my art had called for. But I'm going to use prime today just to show you what I'm talking about. And if you feel like, as you get more advanced in your art, that you want to prime the canvas a little bit more to get a really smooth surface, you could lay some white paint on it, let it dry, lay some more white paint on it, let it dry again, or whatever color paint you want to use. And that's how you can prime it. And I would say that's for intermediate to advanced students. Well, advanced students would know that. Intermediate students would probably be starting to do a little bit more of that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So I have my water here, my paper towel, and I'm going to get some paint out. Today I will use, let's see, I've been using red lately. I'll use some green today. I'm going to use this bright green. This is Craft Smart acrylic paint. Just going to shake it up a little bit. It's been sitting around for a little bit. Add some of that paint in there. And let's just go ahead and get started with using the different brush types. So I'll start with one of my favorites. It's this larger brush. I love painting on large canvases. So I'm just going to wet my brush right here, and I'm just going to show you this. I'm so sorry that I do not have the actual sizes for this. I've had these brushes for some time now, and some of the sizes came out, but you can find this in your standard brush pack, like a basic pack of paint brushes that you can find at your Michael's or any craft supply store. Okay, so I am going to lay some of this paint down, and I'm just applying the paint on my brush like so, and then I'm just going to paint. Let's do a stroke here, so you can kind of tell that stroke. You can tell how that kind of lays down right there. So that's about as wide. Actually, let me show you the actual width of this brush. So that's it. So with this brush, this is about how wide you get. So depending on the canvas that you're working with, if you need to cover large spaces of your canvas, you might want to use a large brush. If you have a really large canvas, you can actually use a brush like this. This is a painter's brush. I got this at Home Depot and I just modified it a little bit. But you can use this to paint your surface. So this would give you a wider range, okay? So I'm just going to clean off this brush, and I will show you one of my other favorite brushes that I use. Okay, I'm going to put this to the side and leave that there for now. So this next brush is my brush that has a bit of an angle to it. If you brought a pack of brushes and you saw this one, it has like just an angle to it. Okay, just going to wet that a little bit, wipe it off some. And I'm going to show you what this brush is. I use this brush a lot for doing like motions like that. I don't know why, I just use like circles and things like that. So let me just show you. So I'm going to get a little bit of paint and I will show you. And mind you, this brush is kind of old, so it may not perform at a very good quality as some of your brushes if they're brand new. So I'm just going to lay this down like so. And that's it. And as you can kind of notice, there is a slight angle there, okay? And that's very good. It depends on what you're painting, but it comes in handy. So as you begin to work more and more with your brushes and try different things out, you'll start getting a knack for how to use it. You know, if you're filling in corners or doing circular or some kind of angles, or even calligraphy. If I'm doing like a large canvas and I'm writing something on it, I would use an angle brush because it just produces some really interesting forms. Okay, so that's this brush. Actually, I should probably, maybe should lay these here like that. So my next brush that I love to use, let me just see. Oh, that's a pencil. This one. And it's a love-hate relationship with this brush right here. So a lot of times it does what I want and other times it doesn't, but I always end up going back to it for painting portraits, faces, filling in cheeks and round circles, because it reminds me so much of a makeup brush for me. And that's just the way I use it. Now, as you can see, it's not got like a blunt kind of sharp edge like that, or even an angle. It's round, okay? And the middle of this brush comes out. So it's like a little point, just a little round point, and it's circular, okay? So if you've seen this brush in there, let me see, let me find one close to it. You've probably seen this brush in your brush pack, something like this, you know, something like this. And then you have the angles, and then this little round one. Me and this brush, I always use this brush. We're, like I said, it's a love-hate relationship, but let me just show you how this brush works, okay? So as you can see, I got these two right there. I'll just go ahead. I'm just gonna do that, a little paint on there. And that's it. It kind of gives you a lot more, I call it charging my brush, like filling my brush up when I'm loading the paint on there. But it gives you quite a bit of paint up at the top. And then as you kind of relax and go down with your stroke, it loosens up a lot, as you can see. But there's still that tip there, okay? So I hope this makes sense to you. I hope you're able to see the different brushes. I'll give you some examples of how I use a brush and what forms work best for me, and then you can just kind of use it how you want to use it and experiment and do all that good stuff. So the next brush that I will show you, I'm going to show you the fan brush. There's multiple ways you can use the fan brush. I don't know if I can say there's a right or a wrong way to use that. I haven't been painting for that long, even though I've been painting for like, I don't know, like 20 something years or something. That's just on and off again. So I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to use this. When I think about art, I think about, you know, just kind of going with the flow and just doing what feels right for me. So I'll just show you how to use this. And I'm thinking now I probably shouldn't have dipped it in the water, but anyway, let me just fan this out some, get it kind of dry. So with the fan brush, you can use it, as I was saying, a few ways. When I had first started, I would dip the whole brush in there and lay it down, splat like that. And I was like, oh, cool. And I would just keep doing that and create different patterns. Over time, I realized that you can actually use it to, I would use it to make clouds and many different things. But let me just show you. You just take the fan brush and you just add a little bit of paint on there. This is one way. There's many ways you can use the fan brush to create many different things. Grass, like I said, clouds, sparkles in the water, little twilights glistening off the water, that sort of thing. But I'll just show you how to use it, or how I use it. So anyway, you can just hold it. You want to be very gentle with it. My canvas is flat. Typically, this would work better if your canvas is at an angle or actually on an easel, but we'll just do this. So, okay, and also, instead of creating that round, you can just do okay. And it just creates little dots, okay? And if you're wondering what's that useful for, if you're painting grass or something, right, and you wanted to show the different colors in the grass, you can do light green, you can do a little, a shade darker, or you can do a tint up, that sort of thing, and create so many different effects from that. So I'll just leave that there, let you guys kind of experiment with the fan brush. If you need any more assistance with how to use the fan brush, if you just Google how to use this fan brush, or look on other YouTube videos, you'll find so many different ways to use it and how people use it. And I think just exploring it is very, very interesting. Okay, so that's a fan brush. And let me just pick one more. I don't have too much more room left. So let's see, another brush. I'm going to go to this. Here's a brush that we tend to get along. Now this brush is very similar to this brush right here. And it's very similar in the fact that of the shape. It's kind of got a point at it, and then some of the bristles around it are cut a little bit lower. If you look really close at the brush, you can see that. It's the same thing with this, except this one is a little bit pointier. It's not so thick, okay? So I'll just wipe that off, kind of get my bristles back together, because as I mentioned before, I use these a lot. Okay, so this one in its prime condition can do very thin lines, and I'll just show you. See, very thin lines. So you can do very thin lines, okay? And you can even go thinner. If you see any brushes that are thinner than this, you can use them for outlines, subtle details, all that sort of thing. And just so you know, details matter. They really, really help out an image or a painting that you're working on. So these are some of the brushes that I use. Like I said, I don't use a fan brush that often, so most of all these brushes I use, aside from the, as I mentioned before, the fan brush. But I know someone was one of my students was asking me, how do you use this? So that's kind of an example. And I will show you in a next video some other ways you can use this and what I use it for. Okay, so that's just kind of an introduction to some of the brushes that I use. There are plenty of other brushes that you can use. They all create different effects, okay? Oh, pull that pencil down. They all create different effects, okay? Oh, and I forgot one more. The palette knife. The palette knife is very good. I think for me, the palette knife works very nicely with oil paints, okay? Or thick acrylic paint, so thicker paints. But basically the palette knife, let me see if I can kind of get some here. Basically the palette knife, you kind of just lay it on like that. Or like you push it down like that. You know, that sort of way. And it creates different effects. And I have a painting somewhere that I use with oils. I like using it for oils, but you can use it for thick acrylic paints, and it just creates different different slashes, different swoosh, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but it just creates different textures in a painting. Okay. So yeah, so that's a little bit about some of the brushes that we use. This is just very, beginner with how to use these brushes, what kind of strokes that they make. If you are using the Autodesk sketchbook, there are all these brushes and more on there that you can play with and explore and experiment with, and then you can get those actual brushes and use them, on an actual canvas and create something, okay? So anyway, I will see you guys next time. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye.